wonderful play. Could have had chances, but we won. Went to the finals.
The boys are giving us final after final. So I'm very excited. As you can see behind me, no one wants to go home.
I'm happy to be defending champion, happy to be at the final.
Ngithanda ukubonga ukuthi sisebenze kahle futhi one more another final. This team, we lose together, we win together. There's no, if there's individual mistake, clear, everybody saw, we had to raise and stand for him. That's what we had to watch the boys try to do.
Good evening. Welcome to it. I'm your jersey number 10, Thomas Colombo. This is Extra Time, an Extra Time show that's going to be jam-packed with action from the CAF Champions League Confederations Cup, where we saw two of our South African superpower sides in Mamelodi Sundowns and Orlando Pirates make their way through to the semi-finals of the CAF Champions League. We'll also look at what Steadies are doing. They're cooking quietly, out of sight a little bit in the CAF Confederations Cup, and then we will take you to the Nedbank Cup and all the drama, intrigue, and action of that. So, the question that I need for you to speak about tonight on the show is a simple one. What was your moment? Either a great moment, or a moment that really upset you, or a moment that made you so happy in the last week of football that you have to tell us about it here on Extra Time. What was that moment? Use the hashtag SSDski, and let's start the conversation happening. You've got a final now with the Nedbank Cup that sees Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates in it. Is that what makes you happy? Is it the way that the sides played over the weekend in the Nedbank Cup? Is that something that made you happy? Or do you want to go all the way back to the Champions League? There were some great moments that took place there, but in studio to give their perspectives on the situation, I'm going to start first and foremost with the man closest to me, Matthew Booth. Booth, how are you? You good?
Yeah, excellent. Great weekend of football, and also during the week. It's good watching some continental football.
You're wearing black today.
Are you suggesting that I'm in mourning? No,
I just looked at the shirt and said it's black.
No, we get a palette. Yes. And we have to...
Oh, okay.
You guys didn't clearly...
No, because black wasn't the colors that we were given. You just came with black today, and we will discuss possibly why the former Mamelodi Sundowns defender in Matthew Booth might be have chosen that particular color for his dress code today in studio. Right next to him is the bold and the beautiful Phumuzo Manenze. And Phumuzo, what a week's worth of football. Lots to discuss. What's your moment? What strikes you as something that you will find unforgettable before we get to the 30-second strike?
I think you look at what happened midweek with our South African teams. For me, that was great. Then you come to the Nedbank Cup. I don't think anybody gave Kaizer Chiefs a chance to go through to the Nedbank final. They're in the final.
You and me, we spoke.
Yeah.
And we had in-depth conversations on the playbook.
Yes.
And I was like, listen, Chiefs, the results in the league have been very close between Mamelodi Sundowns and Chiefs. They were literally separated by a goal in each game. This was not going to be an obvious landslide. If you take away the cup game that was 4-0, the league form showed that this could have been a very tight encounter, and it turned out to be that way.
No, it was a very tight encounter. I think we need to give credit to the coaches on the day. I thought that Nabi was spot on with his tactics. I thought Coach Cardoso also started the game well. I thought the substitution changed the game. The substitutions that were made in that game, I think it either elevated or decreased the tactical quality on the field of play. So it was not easy looking at the stats, because when you looked at the last 5 games, between the two teams in all competition. It was 5-0 to Sundowns. So that's why I'm saying a lot of people did not give Kaizer Chiefs the chance, but I'm happy that the boys showed guts on the weekend.
When you mentioned a lot of people, I thought you would have looked across to Matthew and said, a lot of people did not give the Chiefs a chance. Matthew,
he's already wearing a black shirt.
Look, you asked me about Arsenal and Madrid, and I stood up for both of your teams. So I said Arsenal was going to win, and lo and behold, you're going to have faith sometimes.
when it comes to being given a chance, as far as Kaizer Chiefs coming into the match against Mamelodi Sundowns, was it a foregone conclusion in many people's minds? In your mind, that Chiefs had no chance?
No, I'm always very wary when it comes to a big game. So the Chiefs, Sundowns, the Soweto derby, the underdog is always in my mind the favorite from a psychological point of view. And Pirates fans must be wary, because I've talked a lot since over the last couple of days, and I've noticed that Pirates fans were really wanting Chiefs to go through. And be careful what you wish for, because from Chiefs themselves found out the last time that they were in the Nedbank final, I think it was 17-18 against TS Galaxy. They found out themselves, coming up against the underdog, how difficult it can be.
So there's the warning, Mapagania, coming from Matthew Booth, that Kaizer Chiefs are not going to be easy meat when it comes to those two encounters. Remember, it's back-to-back weekends that they'll be playing as far as the Betway Premiership is concerned, and then in that Nedbank Cup final. But now, guys, the big news story has to be that Kaizer Chiefs, in theory, and for the most part, and 90%, they only need Orlando Pirates to finish in the top two as far as the Betway Premiership, and they are back in CAF action next season.
Yeah, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that would be the case. Pirates will certainly end up first or second. I think the gap between third place is far too gone, especially with Pirates' game in hand. So that's a great position to have Kaizer Chiefs. We often are very critical of them, and it's not because we want to, it's because we want the success of Kaizer Chiefs. So it's great to see them back in a big cup final.
And the last time Kaizer Chiefs were involved in continental football, they went all the way to the final of the CAF Champions League.
Right, there you go. So the CAF Confederations Cup is beckoning for Kaizer Chiefs. Just the small matter of Orlando Pirates making sure they finish in the top two positions in the Betway Premiership is all that separates from Chiefs being back in continental football. But guys, let's get straight into the conversation. Ace will be joining us later in the show. He's still cooking. And you have to know that it's going to be good what he's cooking. So he's coming later on. However, the 30-second strike is where I come in and I say to the viewers, listen, I'm going to rank some of the moments that we've come up with this week, and we're going to go in order. And one thing I'm absolutely sure of this week is that I will not be going first or second. I will definitely be going last, because I'm going to start with the two guys who are going to give me speeches this week. They want public speakers. Nothing to show. They brought nothing for show and tell. Public speaker number one, I'm going to go with the bold Pumuzo Manenze, please. Microphone, please. What have you got for us as your 30-second strike?
No, but you can't introduce my moment like that.
No, I'm done.
No, Mama, go to public speak. Go to
Okay, people will judge at home. What's the judge? Are they going to stand up on their chairs and go, yeah, this is a great moment? Or think that, no, well said, Pumuzo, very nicely said.
I'm a proud South African. I'm a proud South African, and I'm going to go with South African coaches. That man in your picture, Fadlu David, used to coach Maritzburg United, used to be the co-coach at Orlando Pirates. He has qualified Simba to the last four of competition. So for me, that's the bold moment of the week right there. I don't only stay with him, but I stay with the Confed Cup. I look at Stevie Barker. Key players lost in the beginning of the season. Van Rooyen, Adams, Reynolds, they're all gone. His squad looks thin. But for me, he continues to grind. He continues to cook. And he has taken this thin Stellis team with a lot of DGC players that he has promoted onto the last four of continental football. Fadlu Davids, Stevie Barker, you are my bold moment of the week.
There you go. And you know, like if you go to those poetry nights, they do this after you do when you speak nights.
No, you're laughing alone. It's a
That was like 45 seconds as well.
It was long, man. But thank you. And our next public speaker tonight. Matthew Booth, what's your 30-second strike of the week?
Also a very proud South African, and on a similar theme, I'm going to go with the fact that all three South African teams have qualified for the semis. Stellies, as Pumuzo said, Steve Barker doing a wonderful job. And what I like about both Stellenbosch, Sundowns and Orlando Pirates is that away from home, under difficult circumstances, they've shown a massive sign of maturity, eking out results. All three of these results were won by one goal over 2 legs. And that bodes well for Bafana, and I think that's partly the reason why we've seen a great improvement with our national team.
Thank you, gentlemen. Really enjoyed that. That was very... Thank you very much.
Because his underwood.
No. There's another one of these ones. Yeah, great. Thank you. Very nice. Let me get now into a 30-second strike that I know you will not forget and you will enjoy, because he's not a man known for this, and he's up against a man who is known for this. As Mahlatsi comes top speed to a Dion Hotto, who on the day says today at the House of Pain in Orlando, he is going to bring a little bit of extra to being a Hotto-matic, and he gives a little choir. Maybe that's choir of the season. Give me your perspectives on the 30-second strike. And they even cut it short. I said they must repeat it for the entire 30 seconds, and they did not do that. As the clock is running out, you should have seen it more than one time, because it is that good. But that is the 30-second strike that I loved this last week, and he made me stand up on my couch. He made me go, wow, look at what Hotto goes. And he is one of the players that I really enjoy watching for his hard work. But now he has this.
After the serious business, we end up like this.
Yes.
After the serious business, we end up like this.
Did you see the reaction?
From who?
Everybody who watches soccer reacted to that moment of the week there when it comes to Dion Hotto and just that little bit of sublime skill. Tell the truth, Matthew. Tell the truth. It was brilliant.
It was brilliant from him. Normally he's got very good quick feet, does a couple of step overs, drops a shoulder onto his left foot. So nice to see him with a bit of skill, but definitely not the moment of the week.
What are you saying? Okay, well, there you go. Hashtag SSDskis, where you can talk about it. And also, let's talk about your moments of the week. We've given you a couple of hours, and now it's time for you as well on hashtag SSDskis to tell us what you think those moments are. But let's go to the Champions League. Let's start out and have a look and see what took place in those 2 Champions League encounters. We start out with what happened with Orlando Pirates having to be at home against MC Alger. This was a game that was balanced on a knife edge, and early on in the match, we already started to see that there were signs that Orlando Pirates would play this game differently to the way they were under so much pressure when the match took place in Algeria.
Yeah, they ended up with only 37% ball possession, but that was typical. This is typical 2-leg game against North African team. You're playing at home now. Nkota did the business away from home, gave them the lead. So I think Wakaula and Mbata did very, very well in pressing and cutting out any possible attacks from MC Alger. And I think those 2 players were fantastic for me.
I look here, and that pass that comes through there is an absolutely unbelievable pass. But Mbata didn't play over the weekend in the Nedbank Cup.
I didn't see him, but I thought the midweek was excellent. Look at how he picks up the ball in the midfield. Look how he dissects those 2 defenders with that delightful ball to find Nkota. He just needed somebody attacking the near post, somebody attacking the far post. But unfortunately, Rilem Mufokeng and Dion Hotto getting to the box a little bit late in that moment. But an excellent pass from the dynamic Mbata in that midfield.
And Nkota's pushed his way into the starting lineup as well. As we look here at the dying moments of the match, Mabasa hitting the post.
Yeah, and as soon as he did this, I took a sharp intake of breath, because I knew something was going to come.
With 8 minutes left.
Oh yeah, he should have really killed that game off. And lo and behold, Alger team had a serious moment towards the end, which caused a bit of a ruckus. But ultimately, there were 9 shots from each team. Only forced the goalkeepers to make 3 saves during the game. So it was a nuggety midfield battle, and again the sixes on both sides of the park did really well to cut down and break down the attack.
0-0 does not tell you about how good some of the performances needed to be, and Mbogazi set the tone early on in the game as to how good Pirates would continue to be defensively in the Champions League.
I think the young man has really started for Orlando Pirates in that defense. But we need to give credit to the senior players that surround him, the likes of Sibisi and Toki. I think the way he times his tackles, the way he reads the game, it looks easy when you're looking at that tackle, but it is somebody that reads the game well, anticipates well. And that's one arsenal that he has, good anticipation and good reading of the game. And I think you're talking about Mbokazi, but for me it's the group defending. I think that back 3 of Orlando Pirates, Toki being the leader, Sivisi being the man with the tackles, and then Mbokazi reading the game very well. I think the back three really did well in the game.
I think when you're playing against a team that's wanting to chase the game, and you realize that you're up against three attacking players who are going to play high up the park, I think a back three is the right way to go. And to have Mbukazi on that left-hand side of that back three has been great, allowing Van Rooyen and Hotter to act as wing-backs. I think that's worked for them in the Champions League, certainly.
There we go. We see Tap there beating Van Rooyen, beating Makaula, and then unable to find a way past Sibisi. Dying moments of the game here. Abdullawi comes with the big header.
I think...
oh no, that's Manezla.
You're thinking that it's an easy save, but it's a free header in the box. Manezla, loss of concentration from the Pirates defense, giving him an opportunity. There were these two late opportunities for MC Elja, where I thought they could have done better. Zunono late also Kipri in that moment, missing that opportunity. But I think the earlier save by Sipoche looks easy, but he has been a solid man between the sticks for Orlando Pirates. I think he's now sitting at 18 clean sheets in all competition. He has been very good.
And when you look at that final shot there, and you got a sense of Orlando Stadium and just how South African football fans have come to the CAF party, filling up stadiums, there to watch the best of continental football. Beautiful to see.
Yeah, and it's gained momentum as well. I remember the final against Al Ahly in 2001 at Loftus. I think we had probably, in our first leg, we probably had 3,000 fans there, And we've seen that increase dramatically across the board with Chiefs, Pirates, and whoever's played on the continent for us. So it's great to see, and the fans are realizing how important it is to the clubs to progress in these tournaments.
Moving on to Mamelodi Sundowns, and similar situation. Pirates' second leg at home, they had to hang on to that 1-0 advantage, which they did. Mamelodi Sundowns had to travel up to Tunisia and do a similar situation. Difficult task. It needed Ronwen Williams to be brilliant in the opening seconds of that game.
Yeah, Africa's number one. I think he has been excellent for Mamelodi Sundowns. It's not only the shot stopping, it's the leadership quality. It's the way that he builds from the back. I love the identity that Mamelodi Sundowns showed on the continent. They go away from home and they are able to go and play the Mamelodi Sundowns way, to be able to keep position, dominate position, even though they were away from home. I thought they frustrated Esperance for longer periods. Excellent reflex save coming from Ronwen Williams.
Champions League matches are moments like this.
Yeah.
Boshniba thinks he scored. They think they won up and back on level terms a minute into the game, except for Ronwen Williams.
Big games, big teams. These games are won on marginal, very small differences. And so Williams, what he does well there is that he doesn't just simply parry it, but he almost scoops it away, because the header is not of great power. So he's actually got to generate the scoop away from the goals. He can't just afford to parry it with the power that it was coming at him. So it was a great save.
And 1-0 there changes the whole complexion of how things may turn out.
Absolutely, and if you remember the first leg, what happened off the field as well, so there was a lot of animosity building up into this game. So again, that's where the maturity comes in holding out here.
What did give a little bit of concern here was the set pieces. Those were two set pieces reasonably early on in the game, and we were seeing Esperance getting on the end of them.
Yeah, they were meeting the ball at the highest level, but you need to look at the way that Mamelodi Sundowns were defending those set pieces. They were using mixed marking. They don't really go for man marking throughout. There's sections of the defense that men mark. The other guys go for zonal marking, which I thought is the right tactic, because when you're trying to defend man marking, it's difficult with VAR, because you take somebody, the referee says it, and he points to the penalty spot. So the mixed marking technique that they used in that away game, I thought it was excellent.
And then we continue as the pressure continued to pile on and pile on and pile on, as we see Belaili here coming down the right-hand side, and he is one of the outstanding players in that blood and gold jersey. He does enough here to pull it across, no one on the end of it. It was one of those days for Esperance.
Yeah, a sign of things to come, I think, against Chiefs as well, as Suarez been able to be turned so easily there. But Belaili, he was a thorn in their side for over both legs. And Sundowns, I think, going back to the set pieces, we've noticed that the Achilles heel is from set pieces, but not only set pieces, but also in open play out wide. So if you're not going to have players who have a bit of presence, like Kekan is good in the air, but then who else? You've got Suarez alongside you, who's not particularly tall. He's not going to out jump, a tall North African number 9. And so, what do they do in that regard? I would love to see perhaps Kaizer coming back into the team and adding a bit of presence there. And I know it's an old school style of thinking, but set pieces are a part of the game.
But also, Matt, when you're speaking about Kaizer coming back into the team, we've seen how modern football has demanded for a left centre-back, especially in the build-up play. I think coaches now, when they look at the team, they look more at their team when their team have the ball. They don't look at that old school that you're speaking about to say, they first look at defensively, set pieces who might suffer, so let's bring in Kaizer, who's taller and who dominates aerial balls more. They will rather go for a left-footed left centre-back that will progress the ball into the next line a little bit more easier.
Now, if we keep to look at how Esperance approached this game, Mamelodi Sundowns were able to match them pound for pound in the encounter. But when it comes to little moments, this was a little moment that could have ended very badly on the Mamelodi Sundowns side of things here, as we see how Teboho Mokoena, he'll be disappointed with how he dealt with this ball. And Ben Hamida is the man who capitalizes.
He tries to turn inside and just gets a little bit of a toe poke away from him. And I think partly the reason why Esperance didn't get back to the game, they weren't particularly clinical in those turnovers. And the few moments they were able to turn over the ball very quickly. And here's a classic example of where they could have done some damage, scuffed effort in the beginning and then a wild shot where they could have perhaps just held onto the ball and rotated it back inside.
But there was also a willingness there from Mokoena to want to turn in the box. He seemed very comfortable. He thought he had a little bit more time than maybe he did, and that could have caused real danger.
Again, perhaps signs leading into the Chiefs game, or they were
this
just
is where I'm building up.
Yeah, there was just a couple
Suarez, we're going to discuss that. A little bit of comfort in the box, and it also was something that was punished over the weekend.
That's right, and that's what coaches are perhaps sussing out a little bit with regards to the centre-backs and the risks that they take on, and the six in Mokoena, the risks that they take inside the box in attempting to play out. So certainly a very high, intense press is perhaps the way to go against Downs.
Is that the answer? High, intense press? Because that's something that Al Ali will be looking at, and they may even be listening to Matthew Booth and say, okay, well, let's go high, intense press against Mamelodi Sundowns.
BMT is key. I think Mokoena is one of those players with a big match temperament. You don't want to be rushed in position all the time when you've got the ball. You need somebody with guts that can play out of that press. When you look at that Mamelodi Sundowns midfield, you've got a Bafana International in Adams, Bafana International in Mokoena, then you also have Alende. Those three players that we're speaking about are dynamic in position, easily come out of tight situations. But for me, let's respect the areas and the zones on the field of play. That is the build-up phase for Mokoena. It's less risk. When you get into the consolidation phase, that's when you can start to look a little bit at those risks. In the final third, that's where you risk. If you respect the zones on the field of play, then you can be a better player. And I think Mamelodi Sundowns has the capacity of players to do that.
What I liked about Downs coming into the second half was that 3 of their players got yellow cards in the space of 10 minutes. And that wasn't necessarily dirty, but it showed an intention playing away from home against Esperance. They weren't going to get pushed over. I think it was Kekana, Shalalile and Costa got three yellows in the space of 10 minutes. So that I quite enjoyed.
Well, Ribeiro's a usual suspect for a yellow. You're not really surprised when you see Ribeiro yellow card.
Yeah, well, my point is the message was there for all to see. They weren't just going to roll over away from home.
Moving on, Stennies. Guys, I mean, if there was going to be an upset on continental football, maybe this one was the biggest of them all. Stellenbosch have to go to Egypt with 0-0 against the defending champions Zamalek, and they do it by virtue of this moment of brilliant play, and it's late in the game.
Yeah, I think if Zamalek should have picked up the phone and called us here in South Africa, would have won them. Don't underestimate this Stellenbosch team. And Nduli getting at the end of that one. You've got the likes of Nku that are threatening with the late runs that they're making behind the defense. And I think one credit that you need to give the likes of Maloi Sani, rock solid at the back. He's the one with the long throw. Nku brings that ball back. You're asking yourself, what is the defending midfielder doing in that position in Nduli? He takes composure. You wait for the ball to get to him, and he executes it so well. There he goes to go and celebrate. I thought a great game plan coming from Stevie Barker, scoring in the third phase of defending that long throw and a well-taken goal.
If they had watched Stellies locally enough times, they would have realised that Molosani is very adept at that long throw going out from centre-back. And when it came out to him, in fact, they scored a winning goal against Gallants in that man at the beginning of March, I believe. I think it was Titus that stuck it away. And they didn't deal with that defensively, So he stood there, he played that hard ball in. And I think the moment was when Ncobo was able to hold on to that ball with his left foot, the way he controlled it for that first touch. I think that was everything. And then, of course, Nduli slotting it above Mohammed Awad was perfection.
I think also, just to add to that long throw, you look at Stellies in the final against Orlando Pirates in the MTN 8. How do they get the goal? Is that long throw from Alois, and they score from that. Earlier on, they did the same in the league game just before they went away. So that long throw is a big threat for Stellies. Anybody that plays them needs to be aware to say, even if you can win the first phase where you win the header, when the second ball drops, when the next action goes in, they're always focused and they execute well.
All right, I'm also looking at your tweets coming up along the bottom of the screen, and lots of you have got ideas as far as your 30-second strike, your moment of the week is concerned. Keep them coming, and we will definitely show them on screen when it comes to the week that was. But this is what you need to make your appointment with as far as the weekend is concerned, because when it comes to continental football, your world of champions is where the action is. At 3 o'clock, Mamelodi Sundowns take on Al Ali. Semi-final 1, first leg, massive encounter there. The defending champions against Mamelodi Sundowns. Matthew, that is unmissable.
Yeah, Pirates would have been on their toes. One of the richest men in Egypt have invested a lot into pyramids. So he's built a nice team over the last couple of years. And of course, the South African coaches up against each other there, Simba versus Stellenbosch. Really some mouth-watering fixtures there.
Pyramids, Yashi's in Pyramids. Pirates, however, get to start at home.
Yeah, they get to start at home. There's players that they need to watch out for. Mayele up top, very key. So being that 10 role, very difficult to deal with. I think Hamdi at that left back also a tricky one to deal with. But also they need to watch out. There's a Rile Mofokeng, there's a Mabasa, there's a Tito Maswangai that they need to worry about. So I'm looking forward to that semi-final.
With it being a situation of the South African team starting at home, how important are home victories?
In the Champions League, vital. I think steady start away, but in Champions League, they've got to go a goal or two up. But if it's any consolation, they've shown how they can play away from home. But ideally, you're playing at home at first. You want to go 1 or 2-0 up at least.
I don't really think when I look at the Champions League and home advantage, I really don't look at getting a result as much key as keeping a clean sheet at home. I think if Sundowns can keep a clean sheet, Orlando Pirates keeps a clean sheet, that is vital to say they don't get their away goal. And then you go without conceding a goal away from home and you get one. It's a different game when you score away from home. So if Pirates can keep a clean sheet, Sundowns can keep a clean sheet, that's the real advantage for me.
There you go. What do you think? Do you agree? And tell us on hashtag SSD's Kids. Time for a quick break. After the break, Dion, the Nedbank Cup semi-finals have delivered a final that will see Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates playing at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. So much to talk about how that took place. And if your moment of the week is in that, tell us about it, and we'll keep talking about it right after this. And we've got 2 matches to start out with. We're going to be starting out with what happened as far as the Mamelodi Sundowns game hosting Kaizer Chiefs. And it starts early on in the Sundowns exerting the pressure.
I think Peter Shalulile, when he leads that attack, you're expecting pressure from him because he's the man that triggers that press. Up top, he had Reyners with him. It's a lovely ball from Allende to find Reyners. Could he have taken a touch? Not really, because there's pressure from Kaizer Chiefs in that moment. Unlucky not to get on target, but good interplay on the right-hand side from Mamelodi Sundowns. Ribeiro again being key. Allende, the run on the shoulder of the last defender. Dove having to change the profile of his body to try and take away space and time from Reyners. Unlucky not to get on target.
Then it continues here with a big moment as, again, Sundowns pierce forward and we see counter-attack football. Great save.
That's a great save from Vuma. He spreads himself well. It's a great build-up to be able to get Reyners in onto his left foot. He didn't do anything wrong there, but it was just the keeper came off his line on time, made himself big, and I can understand the reaction from him.
Look at that brilliant moment there, and you can see what it means to the goalkeeper. Vuma knows that was massive, and turns out to be massive in how the dust settles in that encounter. However, and this is something that you touched on a little bit as we welcome Ace back into the studio here. Ace, I know you were cooking in the background. We can't wait to get your contribution. You ready?
No, you know, Thomas, the level of respect that we have for our viewers means that if there's a contentious issue, if I have to arrive here 30 minutes later than the commencement of...
You weren't late, you were here.
I was here. But we needed to make sure that the most contentious issue was treated properly. And that's what we're bringing.
The spice.
So we treat
aromat, pepper,
Yeah.
everything thrown in.
No,
We're ending the discussion tonight.
Okay.
All right, we can't wait. Because it took him extra time of extra cooking to make sure that he's going to give us that exactly what you want and answers on contentious decisions that took place over the weekend. Let's talk the goal that comes now. Set piece goal. Tebogo Mokoena with a thunderbolt of a strike from the free kick. It beats Vuma, and we were just talking about how Bruce Vuma was celebrating. He does look really disappointed here that this has found the back of the net, the keeper.
Well, first of all, there's a couple of moments here. First of all, the ball goes directly over him. Second of all, he's standing 1.5, maybe 2 meters off his line. So because the free kick is close to the box, that means that he's got even less time to react. So I would have had him standing a bit closer to his goal line, just to give him an extra split second to react. And if you see the shot again, when the ball goes directly over him, his foot is still planted on the ground. So it means that he's reacted late to the jump. So Mokoena has hit it quite hard. But as you see, it's gone directly over him. So if he was standing a little bit further back towards his goal line, and if he had jumped at the right time, I think he misjudges the speed of that. He probably could have done better, certainly.
I go the other way. Well taken free kick. Great power, good placement, and inch perfect technique.
What's the placement? Okay, let's just talk about that.
No.
Placement, that was dead center of the body. Center of the goal. Placement is a corner.
No, man, it kisses the underside of the crossbar.
Yeah.
And the power from Tebogo. Also give credit to Tebogo to say a well taken set piece.
Absolutely, he's hit that with absolute thunder.
Yeah.
But Matthew's also making other points to say keeper could have done better.
Sometimes you must just say, well taken, brilliant free kick, goalkeeper tried but couldn't get there.
And this is one of those moments for you.
That's one of those moments for me.
Unstoppable.
Aye, Ushai.
There you go. And now we move on because there's still more to talk about in this encounter. And I want us to focus now because it has been mentioned here. The name Suarez came up in the Champions League and Matthew highlighting him. However, how did the goal that Duba scores come about? Was cooked. It was cooked all week long. And Wandile Duba expresses this in the post-match interview and gives great clarity on how it was that they exploited a particular situation to their benefit at Kaizer Chiefs. Take a listen.
I was telling you what is not like because she has to sometimes none we build up. So it's in the moment to Mushil in a center back up no mistake cool. So she shall make a massive my party pass it around. Then ends around what come local.
So kahle kahle ukhaza ukuthi ucoach ubeshilo ukuthi ni target uSuarez namhlanje.
Yeah, but I should since from start to feel then we should target in a center back up.
Right, so let's first identify the left centre back that Duba is talking about. Who is he identifying?
Yeah, Suarez. And this particular moment was very sluggish for him. But he had listened to his coach's instructions by pressing in the correct manner. I find it's a great balance to have a right-footed centre-back and a left-footed centre-back. It's great balance, but not in this instance when, first of all, the ball speed is too low from him. So that's a sluggish pass. But nevertheless, he's trying to play from his left foot into Tebogo Mokwena's right foot. And that's giving Duba an extra yard to be able to sneak that ball in, instead of getting it on his right foot and playing it into Tebogo Mokwena's left foot. That gives him an extra 2 yards. You see, that's completely wrong. I mean, that's a great press.
It's exactly what he said.
Yeah,
He said, listen, the coach said, if he's going to play, make him play on the outside. If we can force him inside, we got him.
Yeah, but that's what you do with pressing traps. It's not only taking away space and time from the defender. It's that false sense of security for him to say, this boy is sleeping. He's closing me here. Tebogo is completely open on this side. So you let him fool you. In Suarez's head, he thinks, Duba is sleeping. I'm just going to slot that ball in here. And that's where the pressing trap is. As soon as the ball is played, he reacts the quickest, and he knows. And there's one thing that he said after the game, Duba, he said, I had to push the ball a little bit too far ahead so that it does not make the tackle. And that was intelligent from the young man. Then he goes on to score goal number 6 in all competitions. Well taken.
So it's always fascinating to see that some things like that don't just happen because the player decided, but the coach has given an instruction and said, this is how it needs to be done, and we can exploit the situation. Now, the winning goal does come along here, and there are a lot of things to discuss here. Ace is going to be involved in this conversation, but this is a goal that Dupree will remember for a very long time. Kaizer Chiefs fan will remember for a long time. But Matthew, there are probably ways that this could have been defended.
Yeah, first of all, I think it was a great moment when he made the changes. Kele off, Mkhetwa on, gave fresh legs in the midfield, and then he puts on George Matlo as the 8, instead of Sereno. And Matlo ends up getting wide in this moment, very energetic player, a lot of class. This was poor defending, I think, from Tiwane here with the header. Trying to knock that down in that moment was a mistake.
What should he have done?
He should have headed it
away
as far as possible, or he could have. He did actually have time to wait for it to land on his foot to clear it with a volley. But this is what Matlo does here is everything. Even if this was offside, this ball is everything. This is very difficult to defend. The way he's whipped this ball in, and the fact that Dupree has been able to get this on the half volley, as it comes in at him very quickly, and it hits the ground just before him. This is a fantastic move, nevertheless.
I think we spoke earlier about respecting the zones on the field of play. Tiwana is not the place to be trying a smart header in this instance. Wrap your left foot around it, throw it to Rosette. In that moment, it's nearly 2 minutes of the game that is left. But for Matlo to be able to bring in an inch perfect cross like that, Dupree scores the goal. But the cross from Matlo to be able to take it first time with that's good technique. And the rest is the man has finished cooking.
Saying, look, it's offside. He had the visual on his phone to the media to show that he feels that this goal was clearly offside and that VAR is an absolute requirement for situations like this to not occur. Which brings us to Spot On, the VAR, the man who's been cooking. Because what have you cooked on that situation? How are you going to explain it? And everybody wants to know clarity, offside or not.
No, the key thing is that whatever you say in the post-match press conference is irrelevant. Doesn't change the result. Whatever we say here doesn't change the result. We just analyze the situation so that people can learn. The referees themselves, the fans, the coaches, everybody involved in football can learn what happened. All right? Now, I've seen so many lines being drawn all over the place, some of them squiggly and all of that. And we accept the drawing of lines. But on this show, we go further. We go distance. We measure the actual distance of the attacker at the moment that the ball is kicked towards him. What was the distance between the attacker and the goal line? What was the distance between the second last defender and the goal line? That's what we're going to show. Because if the attacker is closer to the goal line than the second last defender, then it's offside. So we need to get to that point. We can't be drawing lines and then discussing whether the lines are parallel or perpendicular. We need to measure the distance. And we have the pleasure here of having the instruments to measure such distance.
Keep measuring.
It's a measuring.
You are going further than VAR.
No, we're going further than VAR. VAR only uses lines.
When I was on your tape.
Tina, CT. What was the distance?
Show us.
Meters.
Show us, because the build-up is nice, but it's the finish of the count.
Let's go to it.
Let's go.
And you know we must have pity on the assistant referee, because as a football person, the assistant referee at that moment, look at him at the bottom of your screen. Any football person at that moment, when the ball is kicked, he's there, he's looking at it, and he expects that to be defended before that kick. Because there was a lot of possession by the defenders, and he expected it to be kicked out. Now, he's not in the correct position. That's where the actual offside line in. And you can see what the assistant referee sees
is across the line at an angle.
Across the line that we're drawing.
At an angle.
At an angle. And what he sees is a striker in an onside position. That's what he sees. But now, the distance between the striker and the goal line is 10.4 meters. The distance between the defender and the goal line is 10.9 meters. Who is closer? The one with 10.4 meters.
50 centimeters. It's simple.
Very simple mathematics.
Very simple.
The striker is closer to that goal line than the second last defender. And that's all that matters. The law is clear, Thomas. If the attacker is closer to the opponent's goal line than both the ball and the second last defender, that attacker is in an offside position. And if he gets involved in active play, then a flag must come out. We're keeping that line from the head of the assistant ref so that you can see why he was not able to pick it up.
It is a close decision, though.
I know when you look at it in real time. It is not as blatant as people are trying to make it out to be. The assistant referee is human. He was caught for pace. His football mind told him that the defenders would kick that ball out. So that's why he was just half a meter away from the offside line. That was offside. Should have been picked up as an offside. It was not a legitimate goal. It was given as a goal, incorrectly so.
I see a tweet there that says that maybe the guys will get a chance to play Real Madrid. They're talking about Kaizer Chiefs there, so they're listening to you. Marba text. They're looking at some other fixtures a little bit later down the line. Now, there was a fight in the game, Ace, and this one needs your assessment as well, because I saw jerseys torn, and I saw a big decision that needed to be made by the referee, and I just wondered when it happened, how many cards? Because the incident happens along the line, and people are pushing and shoving everywhere, and he only gives one eventually.
No, look, in situations like that, as a referee, you make a decision. You pick your culprit.
But the culprits kept adding and adding and adding.
No, you pick your culprit. And there should have been more than one culprit. There should have been more than one culprit, because when that happened there, the culprit that ultimately receives the yellow card is a legitimate culprit. Okay? But there should have been a culprit from the opposition as well. But you know,
do all those pushes require a card?
No, not all of them, because some of those pushes, when you interpret them, you're saying they are pushing because they're trying to break up the fight. So as a referee, you pick your prisoner and you show the card. But for me, it's not even what happened there, because you see, you've got to have a second culprit beyond the one that ultimately was shown the yellow card. Okay, the one that laid down there. But for me, the biggest problem is when a player whose jersey was pulled, and the jersey had no problem. Now, because he wants to create a situation where he can point to the referee and say, you know what?
Double jersey, yeah.
But
No. They say double nine.
okay, fine.
They double nine.
No, I agree with you. That's
Yeah.
why I'm saying that culprit
Yeah.
should have received a yellow card as well. But
He made it worse.
wenzani?
I need to throw money to referee. But now, bega.
Ngwedabula ngokwakho.
No. I don't want to say what we say double, but not to that extent.
Yes, and then what did he do? Ngwedabula ngokwakho.
No, but now here's the case.
Yeah, that's not justifiable. That's not justifiable. That's why I'm saying the culprit should have been given a yellow as well. But what do we say of a player whose jersey is torn 1 centimeter and then he pulls it 20 centimeters?
Can I tell you what I see there? I see South American derby. Yeah, what? Because the tricks were both sides there. You see the one that you pointed out there? But Serino's trick was the push is here and then he does this and goes down, right? So already there's a bit of everything going on.
Both of them. Then that trickery is not going to win again. All I'm saying is, when the referee decided to show the yellow to the other side, he should have shown the yellow to the other side as well.
I just think it's close friends. They were close when they were still at Mamelodi Sundowns. But I think what I love about their passion is the friendship takes a back seat. It's about representing your club at that moment. And I saw that passion in both players.
From a tactical point of view, I felt that Cardoso, perhaps looking back, would have thought he made a bit of a mistake starting Obas and Mokoena. He very rarely does that. He normally plays with 1-6 and then 2-8. So he just started with Allende in front. He changed it in the second half, but by that time, their passing accuracy in the attacking third ended up being 66%. And I think Martin Pele did an exceptional job, and then later on Mtetwa again in breaking down their attacking forays. But I thought he could have been business as usual by playing 1-6 and 2-8.
We're going to a break. After the break, how did Orlando Pirates book their place in the semi-final of the Nedbank Cup? Right, from the drama at Loftus to the action that took place at the Orlando Stadium, and one-touch football, Gumudzo, as you look at the tactics and trends of this, is what separated Orlando Pirates from Marumo Gallants.
I saw tactical flexibility in this game. And what I'm going to show is the team that was changing formations throughout the game, looking at Orlando Pirates and also looking at this team of Marumo. I'm looking at the back four of Orlando Pirates in this instance. They changed into a 4-3-3. Makaula is in that 6. Now I'm going to spiral Dlamini, who's standing next to the ref. He's supposed to be where Tito is. Tito is the man that I'm spiraling in position. That is the midfield 3. Now look at the front 3 of Orlando Pirates in Mahopa, Nkota, and Otto in this instance. And this is something that Orlando Pirates did very well. Now let's look at what Marumo Gallants were playing. They were playing a 4-5-1 formation. That is the back 5. That is the midfield 4, and the man up top on the halfway line, that is the lone striker Kumalo in that instance. So we always speak about players in between the lines. Now for the viewers, this is clearly Pirates has got 5 players in between the lines. Now Mahopa's movement to move away, to take Sibia with him, trying to open up the channel for Tito to run through. That movement by Mahopa might look small, but he's looking for that space for Tito to run onto. The hand of God is on Kabelo Dlamini. He's going to go on and score the goal in this moment. But that one touch coming from Nkota was key. Now, this is the cut back from Tito Maswangani. The weight of the pass was excellent in this moment. Kabelo Dlamini, it looks easy. The ball bubbles a little bit before it gets to him. He still has the ability to finish first time. Now let's just highlight those 5 players in between the lines. That's something that Pirates did very well to try and get into that back 5. Tito Maswangai's late run to add in between the lines in the pocket in that instance. Tito Maswangai sees the space. He does not even touch the ball. He sells a shimmy and the one touch from Nkota. Now you're asking yourself, could he have gone for goal? Yes, but it's on his weaker foot. He does not go for goal. Because it's on his weaker foot, he goes for that cut back to be able to find Kabelo Dlamini. He's the man that I'm spiraling struggling in that moment. Tactically, the flexibility in Orlando Pirates, they interchange position, they interchange roles. Now Tito cuts back to Dlamini, he finishes. Orlando Pirates playing in a 4-3-3 is what we were highlighting. Maruma, they were defending in a 5-4-1. That is the tactics that were played on the day.
And it's the no-look pass as well at the end, right? I mean, Tito's not even really looking to see where Dlamini is there. He's hit him with the Ronaldinho.
Umuzo showed us the in between the lines in the first phase, and then Dlamini was also breaking into the in between the lines for the finish as well. And we didn't see the angle from behind where it shows that clear bubble before it reaches him. That was a great finish actually, because it bubbles just before him. He's already set to play that side foot in, and he's got to adjust slightly, and he still gets a good side foot to that.
Let's talk about the fact that Pirates did not start with Rile Mofokeng, using him on this occasion as an impact player, and he made an impact.
Yeah,
That's him there, killer pass.
Yeah, great. I mean, when you've got this young man on your bench, you've got to be shaking in your boots, because to put him on your bench really shows a lot of confidence. And it's all about rotation, fresh legs coming on, a lot of enthusiasm, and this is where he enjoys running at defenders, playing those little through balls. Here there was a little bit of a miscommunication there. I think Mofokeng was expecting Mahopa to stop the ball for him so he could run up. Mofokeng was going to run onto the ball directly. So unfortunate for them not to put the game to bed in that instant.
And then we'll see here how Washington Orubi keeps it from being a perfect introduction into the match for Rile Mofokeng when you have to see it on the replay, a really brilliant save.
I think really exceptional for me, because the ability to play across the front three. He's the one that plays the ball out wide, waiting for Otto to return the favor in that moment, not the pass that he would have wanted. But look at him now occupying that central 10 position. That's something that he has done for Orlando Pirates when Tito is missing. In this instance, receiving in the wide 10 position. Look at how he changes the point of attack to be able to find Dion Otto in that moment. The ranges of passes that he has in his arsenal is excellent. Not able to finish in that moment on the far post.
Arubi, brilliant. Watch the replay here as Arubi comes out. For all money, you are going to say the second touch is going to be the goal. Boom, save.
Yeah, great crossing with Otto's right foot. Unfortunate that Mofokeng couldn't sort of control the ball into there. Instead, it ends up stabbing it directly into the ground, and that gives Arubi a chance to come off his line, which he does very, very well.
I think the understanding between the two players is also excellent. Talking about Dion Otto and also Rile Mofokeng. This time, one playing as a right winger, one playing as a left winger. But earlier on in the season, they were playing in the same line, left wing and right wing position.
You just saw the final there being promoted, Ace. And when the tickets do go on sale, I'm expecting them to need a stopwatch before those tickets are sold out.
No, look, I think that within 2 hours of the tickets being available, they will be sold out.
So like, what must you do?
Send any warning, but you get ready tomorrow.
On your marks.
Tomorrow on your marks. Because I think
I think you know what? Maybe we're gonna have a countdown watch.
Maybe. The tickets will be on sale.
But 2 hours is too much.
One day.
No, let's have a countdown watch to the day when the tickets are open.
Yeah.
To say, okay,
everyone can have a fair chance.
Yeah. Everybody's gonna have a fair chance. We're saying maybe 10 days from today. We count 10 days. And on the day, we count the number of hours until we say
Friday.
That's why I'm saying 10 days. We've got to accommodate people that get paid on the 20th, on the 15th, on the 20th, on the 25th, month end. And then later, we then open the ticket.
Good news is that you'll have a selection of derbies, right? And they come right at the end of the month. Like it need 3, need 10 selection of derbies.
What do you
mean?
What? No, it's for a
what? And in a league, give me 3 points.
I'm calling this one the curtain break.
Okay, no, to separate it. Which one are the two?
No, if you don't manage the final to get final tickets, you've got an opportunity on the third as well to get some.
There you go. Thank you very much. That's Matthew Boo. truth. That's for Muzo, the bold and the beautiful Manenze, and Spot On measuring tape. Ace Ncobo is in the far seat there. Thank you very much for being with us. I'm your jersey number 10. This has been Extra Time. Good night.